Contribution and name, then send it to 7197. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
Hello, a very warm welcome. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. I'm your host, Edmond Kizito. On Spectrum tonight, under what circumstances is KCCA demolishing buildings and other properties in Kampala? Is this move justifiable and fair to property developers? Kampala Capital City Authority has come under attack by some property developers and businessmen who are accusing the authority of demolishing buildings and properties under unclear circumstances. 2 months ago, the authority launched a campaign spearheaded by the Director of Planning in an attempt to ensure proper coordination of developments in the city. A number of properties have since been put on a list that is being followed closely by KCCA operatives who are destroying them. Today, the Lord Mayor Arias Lukwago asked the Director of Planning, Judge Agaba, to halt this campaign, saying that KCCA should not be seen as an institution that is harassing people. The 8th Parliament enacted the Physical Planning Act that clearly stipulates what needs to be done in areas such as Kampala. Many structures in Kampala are not built according to plan. Moreover, many are located in road reserves, hampering any plans to widen city roads, which are now unable to cater for the growing traffic. KCCA has also been criticized for not responding quickly to other infrastructure challenges in the road sector. The public is also unhappy about the state of some roads and taxi parks and are now asking KCCA to make good on its promises of making Kampala, the city, pothole free. So tonight we ask, why is KCCA demolishing buildings in Kampala and how prepared is it to deal with other infrastructure challenges? Our guests tonight, Mr. George Agaba, Director of Physical Planning at KCCA. You're most welcome, Mr. Agaba.
Thank you, Edmond.
We also are joined by Honorable Engineer Dr. Gabriel Ajedra Aridru, Chairman of the Physical Infrastructure Committee of Parliament, also Member of Parliament for Arua Municipality. You're most welcome, Honorable Aridru.
Thank you very much, listeners, and good evening.
We're also joined by Engineer Andrew Chitaka, Director of Engineering and Technical Services at the KCCA. You're most welcome, Engineer Chitaka.
Thank you very much. Good evening, viewers.
The man in the eye of the storm, Judge Agaba. Why is KCCA demolishing people's buildings?
I think the public have to really get it clear, or I have to make it clear that KCCA is demolishing structures in line with the law. If you look at Section 33 of the Physical Planning Act, which was enacted by Parliament in 2010, it clearly states that anyone to build a structure in the planning area, whereby a planning area is the whole country, in this case Kampala Capital City Authority, you must get a permit. The same act goes on to say that if you contravene that law, you commit an offense and you are liable to a conviction, to a fine not exceeding 48 currency points, or imprisonment, or both. And it further goes on to say that if the local authority, actually it says the local committee, the local physical planning committee, which in this case the Directorate of Physical Planning, gives you a notice of 28 days and you don't comply, the Physical Planning Directorate has no other option but to demolish your structure per the law. The law says that if you don't demolish that structure, that any dealings in connection with any development in respect of which an offense is committed under this section shall be null and void, and the development shall be discontinued. The discontinuation of the development is a demolition. So I don't see where Agaba is going wrong. I think Agaba is doing the job under the Physical Planning Act, under the Public Health Act, and if I'm violating any law, I think someone needs to come up and put the case where it's supposed to be.
Well, some people think you're simply a sadist. Where were you when these buildings were being put up?
I wasn't an employee of KCC or KCA then, but even if I was, an illegality is an illegality.
Yes.
If a building is illegal, whether I was there or not, it remains illegal.
Two wrongs don't make a right.
Yes.
Honorable Aridru, talk to us about this. I mean, the buildings are being brought. We've been told that this Mapera House, the Centenary Bank building is going to be brought down. Why do we get to such a level? Why can't we have an amnesty, forgive those who have sinned, then start afresh?
As my colleague Agaba said, see, when you commit an offense, you are liable to punishment in terms of the law. Parliament enacted the Physical Planning Act in 2010. It requires all local authorities and the central government to follow that act. So it's not a question of giving people grace period. No, but the fact of the matter is, people know that you have to comply with the certain building regulations. It's a fact. So what Mr. Agaba is doing and his team, what they are doing, they are really implementing the law as enacted by the Parliament. I remember very clearly when KCCA came to Parliament in July, August, during the budget process. We spent about 4 days with the KCCA, and one of the issues that actually came up very critically from the committee members is that people are building on road reserves. People are structures are coming up for which there is either no approval or they're just circumventing whatever approval they were given. A typical example: you are given an approval to have a building with the 3 levels of basement parking, or 2, or 1. Now, if you move around, you find that most of these buildings, the owners have converted those basements into shopping arcades, shopping areas, which is not supposed to be. But that contravenes the approval that was given by KCCA, whether KCC or KCCA. So what he's doing is exactly in line with what was actually anticipated. So we had actually, during that budget debate, one of the recommendations that we sent to the floor of the Parliament, which was eventually adopted by the plenary, that is the whole House, was that KCCA has to enforce the Physical Planning Act and the laws. And that is exactly what they're doing. So for us as a Parliament, we made a recommendation, it was adopted, it is KCCA to implement those.
So you support them basically?
We support them, certainly. We can't have a seat where people are just building anyhow. You build on the road reserve, now we want to expand the road, you don't have. And the owners will say, no, but you compensate me. But you put compensation, even to me, should not be thought of, unless there's an unless to it, unless KCC at that particular time gave its approval to that building plan. And then we shall start talking about it. Now we shall come back and say, who gave that approval? Who knew that person who actually put that signature on that paper to say permission granted, knowing very well that it was on a road reserve? Then it becomes an individual capability, not really the institution as such. Because the act is very clear.
So if someone approved a plan wrongly and the building was erected and it is wrong, you'll arrest that man wherever he is?
No, we have to look for him.
And what
because I don't think that whether it was Mr. Agaba, whether it was somebody else, legally that person should not have approved that plan.
And what happens to the building?
The building must come down.
Talk to us, Engineer Chitaka. What are the specifications? What should a building in the city look like?
It actually depends on what the developer wants to put up, but definitely KCCA or KCC before that has certain regulations that have to be followed. For example, if you're putting up a building in the CBD, you must provide for parking.
That's the central business district.
Yeah, the central business, you must provide for parking, adequate parking. Now, you find that people are being used to an environment where laws are not enforced. So he thinks that in order to get my plan through, let me do what they want and show it on paper. But when it comes to implementation, he doesn't follow it. So that is the kind of situation we've been having in Kampala. And it is impacting on so many things in the city. There's congestion, there are no parking spaces. I think you'll agree with me that you can, if you're moving in the CBD, you can take hours trying to find a parking place.
Yes.
We have these large buildings, there are traffic generators, there's business going on, but there's no parking space. It creates a nuisance in the city, you can't move around. But again, eventually it will also kill the businesses that these people have put up. Because if you put up a building without parking, how will your customers come to you? So it's a double-edged knife, should I say.
Right.
You think that you're making money by putting in so many shops, but eventually people will not be able to access your property.
Right.
So I think it's important to follow the regulations to the letter. And I think now people are waking up to the fact that, laws are now being enforced and we must do things in a planned manner. Yeah.
Let's look at a typical building, 5 stories in Kampala.
Yeah.
They were supposed to have maybe 2 levels of parking underground.
Yeah.
They did not have that. They decided to have shops there. What do you do? Is it practically possible to break down those shops down, underneath and restore parking? Is it possible, or is it structurally not possible?
I think it will depend on how the building was designed. In some cases it may be possible, and in some cases it may not be possible. And what my colleague has been saying is that most times these developers are called to come to KCCA to look at these deficiencies in his property and see how they can be addressed. But in most cases they do not come, leaving him with no option but to go and demolish some of these structures. But I think there could be a way this could be addressed. These are welfare people putting up buildings.
Yes.
They could engage consultants to come and design for them appropriate, adjustments to the building so that they can create parking or something like that.
Are they doing that? Is that something they are welcoming, or are they adamant, Mr. Agaba?
To me, the few months I've been in KCCA, I'm facing a challenge or a problem of I have no answer why people don't want to comply. Even when we do try to do like outreach programs and call them and look for people who know the property owners and tell them, please come and let us see what are the contraventions, how can we help you, what other options are available. They're not coming. Very, very few are coming out to our offices for help. Yet our offices are public offices that's supposed to provide guidance to these developers. I don't know whether they fear KCCA because of probably the vibe the people used to fear KCC then. So I haven't figured out why people don't want to come so that we can guide them.
They're not showing up?
No.
How long is your list?
We have almost 500 buildings now.
What percentage does that code make of the city, for instance?
Well, the number is growing, what you have to know.
Or you're still discovering others?
Yes. And there are those that we haven't discovered. So, to really be, I would put the figure to be conservative, probably at 80% of structures.
80%, listen, listeners, all 80% of the buildings in Kampala that you see in residential and under the central business
throughout the city either have no plan whatsoever, or they contravene the approved plan, or they go to the plan and build something else.
But you can't bring down 80% of the beloved city.
Well, I mean, that's the other challenge we have. That is, practically we could come and demolish the entire central business district.
On
that's
paper.
By law. That's what the law says. But is that practical?
Yes. So what are you going to do?
KCCA set up a special committee of experts from Ministry of Works, from Physical Planning Directorate, from Uganda Architects Registration Board, and some other experts around to sit and figure out how do we solve this problem? How do we tackle this challenge? Because some of these structures are very, very unsafe.
Mr. Kizito, I wanted to come in here.
Yes.
In terms of what is the way forward.
Right.
I remember when we were having that meeting again, one of the things we requested KCCA to look into is the possibility of having multi-bay, multi-level parking in the city to try to address this problem.
Parking towers.
Yes. Now, for example, I'm just saying that that's not what you should do in KCCA, but that is purely yours. That, for example, if a building has been put up, which really clearly contravenes the building regulations and the bylaws, what could happen is that we penalize such a person. You reach and some kind of understanding to say, okay, now we have a problem. How to solve this problem? You have not provided the required number of parking spaces. Now, can you contribute towards construction of that multi-bay parking space so that people can go and park there and we relieve the central business district of the congestion? Because that's a punitive measure that will be practical, and I believe it is workable. because otherwise, to try to bring everything down, as he says, it's very difficult. You don't want to disrupt business, at the same time also you don't want to you don't want to penalize the owners of these properties. So there has to be some kind of a middle ground where all the parties are happy. Because KCCA is basically saying that no, the building contravenes the law.
Let's get this very clear.
Yes.
You could say we can't bring down 80% of the buildings.
Yes.
Let's talk to these men and women.
Yes.
Let them put up alternative parking elsewhere.
Yeah, we put up a fund. Yeah, we put up a fund somewhere, and if there are open spaces available to KCCA, what they could do is they could then design a multi-level parking spaces so that many of these cars that can go and park
under those buildings. They go and park in those.
They go and park in those places. That relieves actually now the other area. So that's one solution that, as far as I'm concerned, which is more workable, which I believe we can discuss.
Engineer, sir, maybe before you come in, Mr. Agaba, is that something that is workable? Let's hear it from you, the authority.
I think it's one of the options that we are going to look into. Related to what Honorable is saying, there's a company that has approached us, and we had already thought about that, but I think it came at the right time, where they want us to look for a piece of land in Kampala, say in Central Business District. They bring a machine, there's a special machine. They set it up, so like an elevator.
Yes.
It is compacted, they like expand it, and it goes up in the sky. And we thought it was interesting. So
what do you mean, takes vehicles up?
Yes,
the car elevator.
Yes, it's a multi-level. It's like a multi-level structure, but it's a metal. It's not concrete. Right. So they import it, insert it, sit it on a certain piece of land, and then it goes up. They build it up.
Yes.
And you can park 100, 200, 500 vehicles going up.
So that's the
has ramps. Yeah, we are now in the negotiation. We are looking at the feasibility of this project, the practicability of this project, and I think we are really thinking in the same line.
What's the cost of one building that would take, one structure that would take 100 or 500 cars?
Wow, I don't have really the exact figure.
$5 million. It could be very expensive technology compared to maybe a parking tower.
No, I think probably within maybe between 500 to about $1 million, plus the land, of course, if the land is not ours, the infrastructure. Maybe
it could cost $1 million?
Probably.
That's very cheap, isn't it?
Because you're not buying a structure. They rent them. They come and install it at a certain location.
Right.
If that location is not feasible,
they can move it to
another place. Yeah. So we're talking about maybe a temporary parking structure.
Mr. Ajedra, is that something you agree with? Or?
Yes, I think that is very viable. In fact, also along those lines, we were thinking that, our roads are very narrow now. There is roadside parking either side and on and off movements which constrict traffic flow.
Yes.
So we're thinking that if in future we have to put in a dedicated bus lane, then there will virtually not be any space for
park vehicles, private vehicles.
So we are thinking that we have to create off-street parking facilities such as those. You could even interest building owners or property owners in the city. I can see so many buildings that are not even making any money in the city.
Yes.
You could interest them into parking towers.
They could turn them into parking towers.
Right. To provide space for vehicles. They could make more money out of that than just owning buildings without tenants.
An empty building.
Yeah.
So you could have a 5-story structure. You come in and you drive round until you get the 5th floor.
Exactly.
When you're coming out, you do the same thing.
Exactly. So that's something we are thinking about. I think that is the way to go, really, because I don't see us creating any more parking spaces along the streets. In fact, some of them are now being, deleted, prohibited parking due to security reasons in many areas.
Yes.
Currently, the contractor for parking services, Multiplex, is facing such a problem.
Yes.
Because parking spaces are being deleted here and there.
About 700.
And yet he's having to pay a fixed amount of money to KCCA. So we could do that kind of thing whereby you create off-street parking facilities and get enough parking in the city, and also get enough road space to run these buses around.
But shall we still have vehicles parked on the street side? Is that something?
We shall still have some vehicles parked in some areas.
So Multiplex is still here with us. You know the company that came before Multiplex was called
Greenbot
Entertainment. They used to entertain people with the clamps on their vehicles. But there was a time in Kampala when parking was free. Honorable Aridru, you were a consultant in Botswana. What did they do there? What did you tell them to do and what did they do?
No, you see, in terms of planning, I think Botswana and Southern African countries are slightly different. I'll tell you why. In those countries, land belongs to the government.
Yes.
Land does not belong to the people. Government owns land. So what government does, if they want to do development, they'll do a proper planning, and once they finish the planning, then they allocate land to the people. You don't buy, they're just giving land free.
In Botswana?
In Botswana.
That's the country that manages its diamonds well.
Exactly.
Which is cited as having a resource blessing rather than a resource curse.
Yes. So that's what they do. So you find that most of the areas are well planned. You actually do not even start construction of any building until, one, the infrastructure is in place. That is roads, water, sewage lines, power, and telephone lines. Once those are in place, then the government advertises those for those who wish to develop those areas. So you find that the area is well planned in that perspective. The same thing applies also to Zimbabwe, to South Africa. So theirs is slightly different. In Uganda, land belongs to the people.
Yes.
Same for those areas where which have been gazetted by government as government
public land.
As public land. These are the wetlands, the forests, the national game reserves. So those are the ones. But other than that, the rest of the land belongs to the people. So if you look at Kampala now as it is, okay, this is the thing that always, when I look at it, I say, but how did you get to this stage? You go to...
Sounds like a bad dream.
Yes.
When you go to Muyenga.
Go to Muyenga. Very nice houses. Access to those places is just a nightmare.
It's a concrete jungle without much order.
Yes. And you see, one of the problems, when people talk about dust-free Kampala, those are just jokers.
This is Spectrum on Radio 1. That's a man who's been to Botswana, where things work like clockwork. We're going for a break. We'll be back. Our topic tonight, under what circumstances is KCCA demolishing buildings and other properties in the capital? Is this move justifiable and fair to property developers who are making some headway? New news coming in. Some of the buildings might not be broken down if there's a way out of it. Do stay tuned because we'll be back.
Is your internet provider turning your world upside down? Broadband Company offers fast and reliable internet solutions. And for the first 100 subscribers this month, we offer zero connection fees. Save up to 400,000. For more information on these offers, call toll-free 0800 222 111.
Broadband Company, more than you expect.
The energy god, Alpha Man from Jamaica, is gonna rock Kampala in the coast of God. Let's get physical! Alpha Man is gonna rock KCCA on Friday 2nd, 2011, and go cricket over at 25k ordinary and 75k VIP. Gets open at 6 p.m. Introducing the energy god, Alpha Man. Elephant Jams! Elephant Man is gonna surprise KCCA with 2 surprise DJs. And now, ladies and gentlemen, there's no other ad for this. You has to be there!
Yep. Good to go.
Elephant Man in Uganda is brought to you by Kampala Property Consultants. Telling the tours and travel. The red pepper. Smell alpha. Don't wish you are there. Be there. Excessive consumption of alcohol is harmful to your health. Strictly not for sale to persons under 18 years. Please drink responsibly. And clap.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90 is brought to you by Stanbic Bank.
Welcome back. On Spectrum tonight, under what circumstances is KCCA demolishing buildings and other properties in Kampala? Is this move justifiable and fair to property developers? Our guests tonight, Mr. George Agaba, Director of Physical Planning at KCCA, Honorable Engineer Dr. Gabriel Ajedra Aridru, Chairman of the Physical Infrastructure Committee of Parliament, also Member of Parliament for Arua Municipality, and Engineer Andrew Chitaka, Director Engineering and Technical Services at KCCA. You'll be able to call in and contribute to this discussion. Let's talk about potholes. Engineer Agaba, how much do they contribute to this crisis, traffic parking?
I think I would like to pass that over to my colleague Engineer Chitaka, who is the Director of Works and the city engineer as well.
Give us an analysis. To what extent do they contribute to slowing down traffic and clogging the streets?
Certainly, potholes contribute significantly to slowing down traffic in the city. This is a public nuisance right now, but we are making plans to fix that, although it's not going to take a short time. Because you have to look at this, against the time that KCC has been going downhill. This has been for over maybe 30 years. There has been neglect of the roads. There hasn't been many new roads planned. Very low road maintenance funding. So potholes have come. We have to fix them, but it's going to take a long time, some time at least, because we need money to do this. And I'm hoping that now that the central government is fully in support of whatever is going on there, we shall get enough budget in the next Dr. Ajedra, we shall get enough budget in the next financial year, such that we can do something that can make an impact to the population in Kampala.
How much do you need to put all the potholes straight, tarmac all the roads?